Hey, here we are, another beautiful Monday morning, playing with you from my studio in Vermont. Susan Lazar Hart here, your host on this transformative journey in our summer series of doing the inner work. Susan Lazar Hart, the creator of the Congruent Life Method and Congruent Living Academy. So thank you so much for joining me today. Come and play. It's just like the sun over there, just playing in the window, coming in. Hey, Shanna, welcome, welcome, welcome. If you're new here, this is how we roll. If you have a question, just pop it in here and I'll respond. If you're watching later, hashtag replay and pop in your question anyway, and I'll respond because you know I check in every day. So today is about vulnerability. So let's just start right off from the bat. How many people, raise your hands or, show an emoji or something. How many people have been told being vulnerable is a weakness, right? Be courageous, don't be vulnerable. Or you're too vulnerable. Anybody ever have that, right? You're too sensitive, you're too vulnerable. What does that mean? You're too aware. Sorry. Don't want to play? Don't play. So today I want to dive deep into this topic. I'm going to take off my crystals so they don't make any noise. This has an immense transformational potential for you to actually play with the power of vulnerability. So once again, we're going to change the narrative of perceiving vulnerability as a weakness and flip it to an act of courage. Hey, Rosanna, welcome, welcome, welcome. An act of courage, authenticity, strength. Being vulnerable is actually tapping into the strength that you have, that inner strength that's always there for you. It allows us to peel back the layers and connect with who we truly be. So have you ever had something you really wanted to create, or somebody you wanted to meet, or something you wanted to play with, a place you wanted to go, and yet up here, right, you're saying to yourself, I can't because I'm afraid, because whatever that is. Well, the truth is, are you willing to be vulnerable enough to tap into the energies of what you're asking to create and to play with what that really could look like for you? That's actually what we do in the Academy. We tap into a life we love. What would that look like? Whether it's relationships, health, finances, it's you. You're all of this, right? I just had a meeting with somebody and she said, tell me about you. And I was like, which part? Right? There's so many parts to us, yet we're all part of the whole of that inner being that came here for this earth school, for this human experience. And part of that is the willingness to be vulnerable and acknowledge, yes, we all have fears. Yes, we all have insecurities. Yes, we all have uncertainties. It's when you go to embrace the vulnerability, it means you're acknowledging those feelings, those thoughts, those emotions without judgment, right? That you're vulnerable enough to be with it. Say, yes, this is what's going on for me. This works for me, or this doesn't work for me, with no backstory, with no judgment. It's being open to being vulnerable with yourself and what you're asking to create in this world, because we came here to create. Sorry, we didn't come here to be couch potatoes, right? Great invention, Netflix, but that's not why we came here. So vulnerability is the first step towards personal transformation, and asking, so truly, okay, Susan, I get you, but I don't know what I want to do with my life. Well, this is where we ask those questions. Are you being willing to be vulnerable enough if I asked you, what would you love? What would you love, right? No judgment. Vulnerability has to do with the courage to be seen. So when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we're essentially saying, hey, this is me with all my imperfections. I am enough. Now, it takes immense courage. Courage and vulnerability go hand in hand. It takes immense courage to share who we truly be with the world. Now, it doesn't mean, there's a part of this that has to do with talking to what someone can hear, right? It's not about forcing yourself. It's about knowing who you truly be, saying, yes, this is me. How you're living or how you're creating works for me or doesn't work for me. I'm going to shine my light on the expansiveness of who I truly be. I'm going to be vulnerable enough to be there, stand up for myself, right? Without having to defend anything. Standing up for yourself means stepping into who you truly be. You can do that with quiet. You can do that with laughter. You can do that with creativity, with joy, right? It's about opening ourselves up to the more meaningful connection that we have with what we are creating. And again, I can't say this enough. We are creatives. That's who we be. We were born and brought here. We chose to come here to create greater. So part of vulnerability, we've just mentioned, has to do with the connection. It's how are you connecting to the world around you? Are you connecting it with a defense system set up? Are you connecting through by just being present? Right? Now, we've talked a lot about this new summer series called Doing the Inner Work. If you haven't seen it, go to Susan Hart YouTube. I'll put it in the comments below after or above after. Have a listen or re-listen, as we've talked about many different things about what it's all about when we do the inner work. And the connection is how we connect to ourselves, is how we connect to others. Right? I'll say that again. How we connect to others, ourselves, is how we connect to others. If you're filled with shame, blame, regret, if you're hiding, your brilliance from the world, you're hiding it from yourself as well. So really, it's about letting down our walls, just pushing them down, 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 down energetically. Sometimes I do that with the energy when I feel like my walls are right up. I just take my hands here because everything is energy, and I push them down, 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 push them right down, and let the earth take whatever that is, that wall that I had built up. And I suggest you try that for yourself. Kind of works. It just did right now. Yum. When we let our walls down and we share our experiences, emotions, we create authentic connections. Again, talk to what people can hear. It's not about pushing yourself on someone. It's about owning you and knowing what actually works for you. It's through vulnerability that we find a sense of belonging and understanding. Growth and personal transformation, when you're willing to be vulnerable, we embrace vulnerability, we open ourselves up to growth in so many different ways. Like, I'll give you a perfect example is this book that I'm working on. And my timeline for myself, I have a 90-day commitment. Again, if you're in the academy, you'll know that we're playing with 90-day commitments right now. And to have this book written by the end of September. Now, there's a lot of vulnerability there. It's too easy for me to say, oh, I didn't have time today, or I'm not sure people will like this, or no. It's about my commitment to me. I'm willing to be vulnerable enough to say to myself, better done than none, right? Just move forward. It's embracing vulnerability with a daily commitment to my life and my living. And by willing to face my fears, I can create a space for positive change. And we're going to be talking about fear, a little bit more about fear doing the inner work next week as we come along. This is just a little bit of a crossover because vulnerability and fear, embracing fear, they go hand in hand. So another part of this has to do with how are you living your daily life? Are you incorporating vulnerability into your daily practice? The practice of being alive. It's about expressing your emotions honestly, again, talking to what people can hear, knowing where their limits are, being in total loving allowance of them being who they are, without you having to change who you be, and embracing imperfection, because the truth is, there's no such thing as perfect. Sorry. Yeah. It's only something you may have gotten on your report card in school when somebody said, this is perfect. So as we do this, we not only grow personally, but we also inspire others to do the same. So when you walk into a room or wherever you are, people are like, I'll have what she's having. I find that wherever I speak and where I go, people are like, hey, what do you do? What do you do? What does that mean? Transformational mindset coaching. And once I sit down with them and ask them about their life and where they're going, I'm willing to be vulnerable enough not to have to say, oh, this is what I do. I'm willing to be vulnerable to listen. Are you vulnerable? Are you willing to be vulnerable enough to listen to where someone else is coming from, what they're asking in their lives? And are you willing to be vulnerable enough to be that light for them? Because we meet people all day, every day. Yeah. So embracing vulnerability can take many forms. It's about being open and authentic to who you truly be. You come first. So let's say you're feeling overwhelmed or stressed and you're in the workplace or in the home life, right? But you've always tried to maintain a strong, I can do this kind of person. Well, it's a facade, right? Embracing vulnerability would involve acknowledging your feelings to you. It's not about throwing up on somebody else. It's about acknowledging your feelings to you and being honest with yourself. How do you want to be with this? And I often will do that. I was just talking to somebody recently, and I, for the very first time, I was really listening to where they were coming from, and it gave us both so much space. Previously I might have gone into judgment with this person when I just even saw them coming. This gives me so much more space to be with them and be with me and ask myself, what is it that I'm asking of in this relationship? Because we're in relationship with everything. And our primary relationship is the one with us. You're in relationship with everything and everyone. Being present, acknowledging your feelings, being honest with yourself. So instead of hiding your emotions, you might have a conversation with a trusted worker or friend, Notice I said that. Ask first. Will talking with this person, will she be in the question, right? So it's about part of being vulnerable when you're listening to somebody or somebody comes to you is the willingness not to solve their problems, right? Are you vulnerable enough to be in the question, to ask them questions? Because when somebody else gets it, they get it. It's not about you telling them anything. So vulnerability and listening is huge. It's huge. And that's one of the things I love about being a transformational mindset coach, is working with women in the middle of their lives who are asking what else is possible. Is this it? And really listening, doing deep listening into what it is that they're asking for. And how can we move together in creating those steps? So again, being open, being vulnerable to you. Additionally, embracing vulnerability means how are you communicating with your needs, right? Yeah, we were taught to just ask for what you need. Well, be present. Are these your needs or somebody else's? If I choose this, if I ask for this, what will this create? What way can I actually be vulnerable with this information of what I'm asking for, so I don't have a defense already set up, right? I mean, how many of us are taught, when you ask a question, it's not really a question for the most part. Do these, what's that old one? Do these jeans make me look fat, right? That's not a question. Did you really want to do this? That's not a question. What were you hoping for? That's not a question. Unless you're coming from this space of space. So again, embracing vulnerability, it's sharing how you truly feel from a place of loving kindness, from a place with an open heart, right? Now, having an open heart might make you even more vulnerable, but when I say make you even more vulnerable, you are vulnerability. That's who you be, right? And it's about opening up to those emotions, being present with all of that. Another way of being vulnerable is to take risks. Step outside your comfort zone. Maybe you've always wanted to try something new, like joining a creative class, but the fear of failure or judgment has held you back. Embracing vulnerability means acknowledging those fears and going for it anyway, right? Acknowledging and going for it anyway, because growth comes from taking chances. So ultimately, embracing vulnerability in your daily life means being a total loving allowance of yourself to be seen, to be heard, and to know yourself authentically. It's about honoring your emotions. They're real, they're there. Being true to your values, and not being afraid to let others see the real you, right? Who you truly be. By doing so, you create a more fulfilling and meaningful life for those around you and for yourself. Now, I've been going at it, right, as I always do. Lots of juicy nuggets. Have a re-listen. Does anybody here have a question that they would like to ask? I'll just hold it off, saying goodbye for a few seconds. And if you have a question, again, pop it in here right now. And if you have a question later, pop it in later, because, I always check in. And if you want to dive deeper, you can always contact me, Susan@SusanLazarHeart.com. That's my email. Or go to our website, www.SusanLazarHeart.com. It's all here for you. It's just about being vulnerable enough to ask for help, right? Yeah. And as an assistance for help, oh, I forgot to mention, I've created guided meditations that match up with each topic of this special summer series that we have. And if you haven't tapped into them, at SusanLazarHeart.com/guided meditations. And we'll send you, my gift to you, the whole series. And you can catch up. You can have a different meditation each morning. I myself start every day with a meditation. It's how you start your day, it's how your day begins. And these are, for myself, guided meditations often just take me where I need to go. So I don't see any questions. As we continue our journey of self-discovery with the summer series and personal growth, let's remember the transformative power of vulnerability. Dare to be seen, connect authentically. That's connect from your own true voice, not by imitating somebody else. It's so much coming in at us all the time. We often want to duplicate what somebody else is doing. No, tap into you, to your joy, what brings you joy. Together, let's create a space of vulnerability where vulnerability is celebrated and personal transformation becomes a way of life. Doesn't that feel yummy? Yeah. So I invite you to take a moment of vulnerability today, share your thoughts, pop them in the comments below. Let's grow and embrace this magic of vulnerability, hand in hand, and create a life that you truly would love, filled with authenticity and fulfillment. Thank you for joining me. I will see you next time. Be true to yourselves. And remember, you are enough. You're more than enough. Live boldly, love greatly, and be that fearless leader you came here to be. Because the world needs more of you. And that transformational power you have right from in here. Not less. See you next Monday, right here. We'll be talking about fear. Yes, the transformative powers of fear are right here for you. I love you. Thanks so much again for joining me. Bye-bye.